Welcome back. You're watching Hard Copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. Dr. Obi Ezekwesili is my guest tonight, and she tells me of how her activism affects her relationship with friends in previous and the current government. Now, I want to ask you, some people have said that, your method has been they have frowned at it because you have been in government, and they expect that you will show a bit more empathy towards those in government, because you realize that to build a good thing is not easy.
I wish I were holding them to such high standards. I'm not. I'm actually not over-expecting of government. One of the things that I do is that I direct my conversation about issues of governance not on the basis of I think, anecdote, rumor, gossip. No, I am very driven by data. I am very driven by facts. Evidence matters to me, because then you have a basis to engage in a very solution-oriented way, and in a way that is very ennobling of both parties in the dialogue. I think that those who say my method or something, they're the ones who believe that we should stay with the code called silence. Keep quiet.
You think that's what they're asking?
I think that's what it is.
Not backroom conversation.
I am telling you that, there is almost a congenital resistance to criticism, to feedback with governments. And it's worse when we are only just learning our own democratic culture. The democratic accountability as a principle, as a nuance, as a way of life in a democracy is only just growing on us. People were never used to the idea that someone who does not have any kind of authority or power over them would dare to ask them a question. What they didn't realize is that with our democracy, the constitutional responsibility of citizens are well laid out. Part of it is really being awake to the things that those that they have given delegated authority to do, and to ask questions. Asking questions really is the heartbeat of democracy. So when I ask my questions, I don't ask out of a desire to be an irritation to someone. I ask on the basis that I want to be able to get a response or an adjustment of behavior. And people sometimes say, but you were in government. And I say to them, that's a really good point that you make. When I was in government, what I did was to make sure that every aspect of work that I did, civil society was part of it, so they could directly ask me those questions.
You have said before that you do have friends in government. How are your friends taking this? I mean, don't they feel that you could have called them privately, and spoken to them a bit more if you have questions, the answers that they can provide you, from behind the scenes?
Without having to go into too much details, because I tried not to mix personal and issues that have to do with governance. But in terms of process and escalation, I would say that I have done very well in that regard.
Let me be very specific. I'm wondering, for instance, how the Bring Back Our Girls movement affected your relationship with, say, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, whom you served with together with, when you were with President Obasanjo. How did she take it, for instance? And how is, for instance, the current governor of Kaduna State, whom I'll ask you about in a moment in a different light, taking the fact that you've been taking on the Buhari government, with the Bring Back Our Girls and all sorts of other movements, such as the Red Card movement?
Well, I would expect that any individual who gets to the level that my two friends that you mentioned have gotten to in life,
are they still your friends?
Would subordinate. They're my friends. They're not my enemies.
I'm just confirming if they're still your friends.
They're not my enemies. They're my friends. So anyone who gets to that level cannot possibly subordinate the interest of the nation to friendship. You cannot. So, for example, on the matter of Chibok girls, I would assume that Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, being a mother, understood what it felt like for those girls to have been taken, and for many weeks the government went silent. That was unacceptable behavior. So that's not, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala was not in the direct position to mount a rescue operation. She was a key part of the government. She could, make some statements here and there to people that were within government with her. But I wouldn't take an offense in the fact that a group of people in civil society watched the tentativeness and the lack of action and coherent and sustained engagement on the issue and put a voice behind poor parents. That would be, come on. There's no way I'm going to hold my friend as being not my friend because they did that. So that's that. On the matter of, say, the current administration and Nasir El-Rufai should be busy with Kaduna State, the issue of the federal government and, its missteps and my position on that.
So, he's been at the forefront of, re-endorsing the president for a second term.
That's his personal, that's why it's a democracy. Oh my goodness, haven't you seen situations where married couples vote different parties? So that's not a big deal. I don't think that that's a problem. I would rather spend my time sort of thinking that are we all as people who have gotten the best of opportunity that Nigeria could give through the education that we received, being able to give back in a consistent manner to our society. Our personal relationships, it's an interesting story, but I'm not really sure that's what hardcore should.
Some people have said that, because you talked about how you gave a time frame for this administration to settle in, and after that you wrote it, that's a Bring Back Our Girls, wrote the administration that we want to see what your strategy is. Now, some people have said that was a tad impatient, considering the fact that, it had quite a number of things to settle as well. Bring Back Our, the Chibok girls being one of them, being one of the many things that had to be settled. Now, how would you take the criticism that you're quite impatient, your stance is confrontational, it's unyielding, and sometimes not understanding at all?
Just me for all these. Interesting. Impatient. I am an impatient optimist. I actually don't think that we have time to waste. You said confrontational. Don't look for my trouble.
Has this government looked for your trouble?
They did look for my trouble.
They did?
They did look for our trouble. We were advocating for Chibok girls, and the next thing, the government went adversarial on us. And we didn't understand. Why were you going to be adversarial on us? Well, were you thinking that we should stop asking you to bring girls that you talked about, even as a party in opposition? Were we supposed to just go silent? So going adversarial on us was not welcome at all. So we just simply held our ground. That's the unyielding part, right? We held our ground and said, there's promise made publicly to get these girls out. You must fulfill that promise. Even worse is the poor engagement with the parents of Chibok girls. How do you think it feels when my phone rings in the middle of the night and it's a Chibok parent calling maybe from a neighbor's house, crying and saying to me, we're not hearing anything about our daughters. Have you heard anything? I haven't heard anything. But this poor woman is hanging on something that I would say. And then we say, as a movement to government, why is there not even a status report on the matter of these girls? If you're doing something, at least find a way to communicate it. Even if what you're doing is so security layered, and you've got to be mindful about what you convey. But there's a way you manage the owners of the grief of not finding their children for many years, and they would be calm. They just felt, we don't have to be accountable to BBOG. So BBOG carries on with its advocacy. We're not adversarial at all.
Well, that advice will also be very useful here to the federal government and the Yobe state government as we await further information on the situation of the yet-to-be-accounted-for schoolgirls in Dapchi, Yobe state. Well, this is not the end of this interview. Many Nigerians still view the Bretton Woods institutions with a lot of suspicion. Dr. Ezekwesili has worked at the World Bank at a very high level. Are their suspicions justified? Will she run for any elective office? Do join us next week for our concluding episode. Well, thank you for watching tonight. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. Good night.